We have more than enough. Let's get into it.
Yeah, let's get GarageBand open here and.
Oh shit! I gotta open Audacity.
Yep. Oh yeah.
I am like off my game. Jeez, man! You go on vacation, you replace me with Tom for a week.
I know.
And then like
I'm so off.
you come crawling back to me like Drew. It was terrible. Tom was the worst.
Mm-hmm.
But you didn't know how good you had it. Even though he's got like 14 Shure SM58s at his place.
Yeah, he has quite the studio, man. I mean, like, I have no shame in saying that it's an absolute disaster in there. But he has some pretty legit stuff.
It looked like it.
Yeah, Tom's just a kind of a messy dude. He's not very organized, but
Tom, get your shit together.
Yeah, I've been telling him for years. I think this is episode 31.
It is.
Isn't that weird?
Kinda.
It's weird and awesome.
Episode 31 being recorded on the 30th.
Interesting.
Everybody, welcome to Will and Drew's Gaming Retrospective. You're listening to episode 31 for the week of June 30th, 2019. I'm your host, Drew. I'm back. Get away from him, Tom. Will. Well, it's good to have you back, buddy.
Dude, I am glad to be lapping up the milk again with you, man.
Wow. I didn't know we were going to cat jokes so early.
Yeah, I had to. For some reason, it was just on the brain. I was like, I want the opportunity to say this. But hopefully in my lifetime, I will never find myself lapping up milk. But
I hope not.
I'm doing more than surviving, man.
That's good to hear.
How about you?
You know, man, it's been a very productive day. I've had a very chaotic couple of weeks since we've last recorded. We just wrapped up production at my theater of a high school production of The Little Mermaid. So I've been going to bed with those fucking songs in my head for the past week.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I mean, how many times can you fall asleep to Under the Sea in your head? But that's what I've been doing. But today was very productive. My father came over and he helped me put my air conditioner in my main front window. And so I'm very excited about that. It's going to be hot this week. And we have brand new insulation in the house that we put in earlier this year. I'm really excited to see how that's going to kind of balance out with the AC. These are like the adult things that we deal with now that we're in our 30s. I get excited over insulation and low electric bills.
And window AC units, which, mind you, are fantastic.
They can be. We've kind of had discussions about the pros and cons of them in my home. Anyway, with my horizontal sliding windows and $500 units that I have to buy. But the one window in the front is perfect for a regular one, and we got the biggest one we can fit in the fucking thing, and it cools off the whole house. It's great.
I feel like installing them is such an unusual process. That's very comical, especially if you're the one not installing it and you're watching the person install it.
Yeah.
Like, because you gotta be fearful that like it's gonna fall out of the window.
Oh my god!
And you gotta get those like little fucking those weird like curtain things that are made of like rubber that you have to pull out and block off the rest of the window. It's such an archaic setup.
It really is.
But goddamn, if it's done well, dude, it'll cool a room down like more than a fucking walk-in freezer.
Dude, we have this thing. I have insulation. I have gaff tape covering holes. Like, this shit's legit. It's just impossible to do by myself because it's so fucking heavy.
Yep, that's the thing. It's always like a two-man job, man. If you're going to do that on your own, like, good luck.
Yep. But you
might kill somebody.
You could. I mean, it's happened before. So, but to kind of continue down the rabbit hole, it's been a really productive day because my father has had like this vendetta against these stumps in my yard. So when we moved into this house last year, the guy who owned the place previously, like basically the house was built in 1955 and it's been a single owner house. He was a gardener. He grew flowers, he grew vegetables, he fucking sprouted the seeds in his basement, and I'm pretty sure he like replanted trees and stuff too. There were, no joke, over 20 stumps in a third of an acre's property, right?
Jesus.
And some of them were at the point where they were starting to rot. So there's one in the front and there's one in the back, and my father's like, every time he comes over, he looks at the stump and he's like, I'm gonna get that fucker. He looks at it, he's just like disdain. He's like, one of these days I'm gonna come over here, I'm gonna hack these stumps out.
It's such a dad thing.
It really is. And it's like, Dad, you have shit at your own house. Like, don't worry about my stumps. You know?
Yeah, dads that, do like a lot of landscaping and just housework, they love like, having those personal vendettas with things like that.
Well, he let his vendetta come to fruition today. And we got a couple pry bars and we like obliterated 2 of the stumps. And they're just like, they were so rotted, like the stumps are just coming out of the ground. And the look on his face as we were doing this was pure joy. I've never seen a happier man in my life.
He's like, son, get me a Coors Light.
Seriously.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah. And then we have this tree in my backyard that was, it was a dead tree, but it was still standing upright when we bought the place. But like, you could see like the fucking termite holes in it. Like this tree was just, it's been dead a long time. Somebody hacked off all the branches and just left it. Right. My buddy Mike, in like last October, he's like, I'm going to chop that tree down. I'm like, great, let's get a chainsaw. Let's do this. Let's make some firewood. He's like, no, I'm going to chop the tree down. So he goes and he gets an axe out of my garage and he fucking chops the tree down. It takes like 2 hours to do, and he did it. And then he's like, all right, my work is done. And he walked away from the tree right where it was laying. And it's been laying in the middle of my yard since then.
Yeah.
So
see, that's a problem.
My father and I took the pry bars that we used to rip up all those stumps and we moved this fucking tree. And this isn't like a branch. Like, this is like a fucking like 1,000 pounds of wood tree.
Sure.
And we just like, I felt like fucking Egyptians building the pyramid, like moving this thing with leverage. It was amazing.
Well, that's the thing, dude. Is like a lot of these kinds of projects that you tend to tackle on in life, you often don't think about like the entire process.
Yeah.
You just think about part of it. And, with you and Mike, chopping that tree down, I'm sure that maybe you guys did think about the whole thing, but there might have been a possibility or a chance where he chopped that tree down and never thought about how the fuck are we going to get this thing out of here once it's down.
Yeah, that was never part of the conversation. It was always like, future Drew problem, not current Drew problem.
Well, especially considering the way he exited, all right, like,
yeah, I mean,
all set here, kind of like rubbing his hands together, like, all right, you got a nice cold lemonade for me, and I'm going to hit the road.
Yeah, basically, it's like, get me a Gatorade, bro.
yeah, exactly. Get a Jesse Pinkman it.
Oh, God. You know what? We're 7 minutes into the show, 8 minutes into the show.
Oof.
And we haven't even talked about video games yet. I've been talking about fucking games. Landscaping. I'm so sorry, listeners.
Stump vendettas.
We've been talking about stump vendettas.
I feel like you could make that into like an Italian nickname, like, hey, Stump Vendetta. Stumpy Vendetta.
Oh, God.
Yeah, moving on.
Folks, thank you for downloading the show. Please subscribe if you are not subscribing. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher Radio. Anywhere you get your podcasts, just do a search for us. You'll find us. We're on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram at WDGRPodcast, at WDGRPodcast. Will, if somebody would like to follow you and your shenanigans, how can they do so?
Will_gear.
And you can find me at ScionStorm. And let's start things out by beginning with our normal weekly question of what are you playing?
Honestly, nothing as of late. Not that ashamed because, once again, life. But I'm very excited to get back into some gaming. We're going to be doing some indie playthroughs again, and we're very excited about that. And I have acquired Doom thanks to Tom, so I will be loading that up this afternoon. I am so excited for you to finally play Doom. I wish you were set up to stream, because I would love to just... This is going to sound really creepy, but I'd love to just watch you play Doom. Well, technically, couldn't we do that with... isn't it like share play or something like that on PS4?
Yeah,
where
but
you can like watch somebody
but
else.
I mean, like, you won't have like the camera, like on you like the streamers do. It would just be you'd just be sending a copy of your screen.
Well, I suppose I could, engineer this setup.
It might not.
Maybe I'd have to reach out to Damien. I don't know.
It would be worth doing. Grab your MacBook, put it over on your lap, use the webcam.
Sure.
We need to discuss this offline. I'm
Yes.
really excited to hear your thoughts on this game. I can't wait. I'm so excited. I actually pre-ordered Doom Eternal today.
Yeah,
And
I know you're very excited for this.
Well, it was kind of a knee-jerk reaction for the pre-order. I'm very excited for the game. I was going to buy it day one anyhow, but I had $10 that were about to expire in my Best Buy account.
Okay.
Basically, I guess I have the credit card, and I did some sort of an offer where if you spend like $150 in a week, you get a $10 gift card or something like that, right?
Nice.
But they won't let you bank those points. You have to spend it, and it expires on 2 days from now. So I'm like, well, fuck, I got to buy something. And then I'm like, you know what? Let me pre-order a game, because then I don't have to have the cash right now. It doesn't pay out until it ships, right? So the only game I could think of is Doom. And then I go to check out, and I'm like, oh, it was your birthday this month. We have a 10% gift card for you. So not only did I have the $10 off, but I got 10% off the purchase. So Doom Eternal's cost me like $43.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm super excited. And it comes out in November, so I gotta wait, but whatever.
Yeah, exactly. At least it's kind of, it's purchased, it's out of the way.
Yeah. So I'm stoked about that. I can't wait for that game.
Yeah, I need to look more into it, but what I really need to do is just play Doom.
Yeah, I mean, don't even look into it. Just play Doom. When you're done with Doom, you'll be like, yes, I want more of this. And then in November, you'll buy Doom Eternal.
Sure.
That's really all it is.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
That's Drew's plan for me.
I have been playing a ton of stuff.
What you been playing?
Well, I've been really knuckling down on Spider-Man for PlayStation 4. And
okay.
I think I'm about 65% through the story at this point. It gives you like a counter and lets you know how you're doing on the campaign. So I've been checking that periodically. Last I looked, I think it was about 65%. And what a great game!
It seems like a really good game. Man. I know I keep saying that, but goddamn, it does look good.
Well, I mean, it's fun to play. Like, the game plays really well. The controls are responsive. Swinging through the city is great. Fighting is great. The gadgets are great. But they're doing a really fantastic job with the story, too. And I find myself, the more I'm playing it, the more I'm drawn into the actual story of the game. The voice acting is spot on. I don't really know a lot about the comic books themselves, but it does seem like the game is following more of the comic story than it is the movies. There's some villains that they're bringing in that I'm not familiar with from, the MCU. Just overall, I can't recommend it enough.
Yeah, I like Spider-Man. I feel like, this has been kind of a revival for Spidey, this game. Because we had the movies, right? And then we had a couple games here and there, as far as I know. But it's nice to see that he's kind of, back into the swing of things.
Yeah. That's a cute pun. Little back in the
I know.
Yeah.
Just wanted to let that one simmer for the audience.
Yep. So
Will's so creative.
Yeah, no, Will sucks.
Ain't that the truth?
I don't remember if I discussed SteamWorld Dig at all last time we met. I feel like I did, but just in case I didn't, I've been playing that, and that's been kind of a fun thing. It's hard to explain what it is, but I mean, you're kind of just like digging around trying to like create these paths to like find stuff, and you unlock more powers and they make you stronger. You go back to town, you it's very basic. It's this vicious cycle of like basically going up to your town, selling all the gems that you've mined, buying stuff that lets you do more mining, go back down mining more, getting into new areas with this new stuff, getting more gems, going back to town mining or selling them, getting better gear, just this whole cycle, right? It's fun. It seems like it's probably kind of on the short side, so I'd like to circle back to it and try to finish that up. But I'm enjoying it. Let's see, Surviving Mars has been a lot of fun. I know I talked
Yeah,
about
tell
that.
me more about that.
Yeah, so that's like this weird kind of like it reminds me of like a real-time strategy game, but instead of like facing like this onslaught of aliens or other enemies, like basically you're building a city to survive in the inhospitable climate of Mars. So you start out with just these robots, and the robots start building your infrastructure. So you're mining metal, you're trying to find a source of water, you're building domes, and then eventually, when you're ready, you bring in colonists. And the first set of colonists are, you get like 10 of them or 20 of them or whatever. And you have to have an infrastructure in place where they can live and survive. Food, water, air, basic necessities. And then you can start putting them to work in some of these structures that you're building too, which will continue to bring in like rare metals, which you can sell to get more money, to get more stuff. There's like a bit of an economy system where you can send a shuttle back to Earth and sell the profits from what that shuttle brings. And the idea is over time you have more and more colonists, more and more domes. You can start specializing the domes. I haven't gotten very far in the game. It's a very slow-paced game, but it's a very relaxing game. And it's a lot of fun. It's part of the Xbox Game Pass.
Okay.
So I tried it on console first. I played for about 20 minutes of the tutorial, and I shut it off. And I immediately installed it on my computer, because you need a mouse and keyboard for this one.
Yeah, that's respectable.
Yeah.
I prefer that setup with certain games.
Yeah. I mean, anytime I'm playing any kind of real-time any strategy game, really, mouse and keyboard's the way to go.
It is. It's a special kind of setup, and like I said, I do prefer that for certain PC games.
Yeah. I also played a little bit of Bridge Constructor Portal. I don't remember if I talked about that last time or not either, too. And that's been a lot of fun. They had the original actress that did the GLaDOS voice come in, and you're trying to get all these test subjects from point A to point B using portals, which is kind of fun. So it's that nice tongue-in-cheek plus the Bridge Constructor vibe. Not much else to say about that. And then we started up. I'm really excited about this because it's kind of a work in progress, but we're already starting to see some action from it. In our Discord room, we set up a section for planning like game nights, and we have a looking for group section. And Tom and I played a little PUBG the other day.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I've never played PUBG more than a little bit. Vic showed me one day. I tried to map out, and I hated it. And I just kind of went in with an open mind. I'm like, you know what? I've never played any games with Tom. Let me just play some games with Tom. And
Sure.
And we settled on PUBG because it's part of the Xbox Game Pass. And he kind of showed me the ropes, and I died constantly. I went in with zero expectations, and I had a fun time. I suck.
That's good.
I suck at the game. I'm terrible at it, and that's okay.
Yeah, it's. I played a little bit of it at Damien's, like I think when he was in his apartment still in New Haven.
Yeah.
And I think Vic was there, and they introduced me to it way back when it was just starting to kind of really gain a lot of momentum. And I could see myself getting into it. I like the idea of it being kind of like, last man surviving kind of concept is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of reminds me of like a modern day, like Counter-Strike.
Yeah.
Sort of.
That's a really good way to put it. I think Vic compared it to Counter-Strike too.
Oh, that's interesting.
There's different ways to play the game, and I think it kind of depends on what kind of mood you're in and what style you're looking for, because you have this gigantic map, right? And the map doesn't change as far as I'm aware. But you can land, like you're on a plane, and the plane drops you off wherever you choose to go. And you have total control over where you're landing on the map as long as it's within a straight line. And you can jump into a place like a city where it's super populated and get into a firefight like right off the bat. And you can try to be like the last man standing. Or you can drop off in a place that's kind of on the outskirts, and maybe you won't have as much action and kind of sneak your way into victory. So
Sure.
So there's like these two different ways of playing it, and maybe there's a third way. I'm not sure. I haven't found that out yet, but it's a very interesting game. I don't know what my level of attachment is to it yet. Like, I wasn't even able to kill anybody. I think I might have shot one person. But
yeah, it's not one of those games where you can just run in like, Call of Duty or even Battlefield for that matter and just be like, oh, I'm just gonna, hunt down a couple guys real quick, try this out. It's you kind of have to play it for a while to understand that, like, it might be a while before you even fucking find anybody.
Right.
So that part can be potentially discouraging for somebody who doesn't really understand the concept of what this game's about. But the whole battle royale thing, I believe it kind of started with this. Did it not?
This game and Fortnite kind of came out fairly close to each other, but I don't remember which is first. But yeah, I mean, I would say this is one of the games that popularized it. I feel like there may have been other games that did this, and maybe this is just the one that did it the best. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, I'm not either. I mean, but it's been on the list of, what I consider like a list of intriguing games and games that I want to check out.
Yeah.
And I'd like to give it a chance. I believe it's on PS4 now as well.
I think so.
Because I know originally, I think it was, like PC and Xbox only?
That sounds about right.
I think it was, and I think that's one of the reasons why I just couldn't get it, because I didn't have an Xbox at the time. But, yeah, it's gaming with Tom can be fun. I've had a lot of history with gaming with Tom, and it sounds like a fucking hashtag at this point. Maybe that's the name of the episode. But yeah, he's a lot of fun to game with because he's usually, like, when he's ready to game, he'll play anything with you. Yeah. He's usually not very picky. And he just kind of does his own thing, and he has a lot of fun, and his commentary is really good because sometimes he'll just be kind of silent, and then you'll just hear, like, God damn it.
Yeah, and that sums up my experience pretty well.
Yeah.
We would have stretches of silences. One of us would be in a different area. Like, all right, so when you get out of the plane, like, or before you get out of the plane, you can put a marker on the map of where you want to land. So because Tom knows the game and he knows the areas better, I'm like, you're in charge. I'll go where you tell me to go. And he's like, okay, I'm going to put a marker here. And he'll be like, all right, ready, jump in 3, 2, 1. And we jump. And he's like, all right, just put your thumbstick forward and just wait until the thing forces you to release your parachute. And then just, guide yourself towards the marker. So I'm doing all these things that he tells me. And I'm nowhere near the fucking marker. Not even fucking close, Will. He's like, all right, well, I want you to land on top of the roof of the school. I'm like, what school? He's like, the school that I just landed on. I'm like, well, I'm not near that. I see where you are, but it's going to take me a minute. And he's this poor guy, like, I'm on the outskirts of the city trying to, like, find a gun. And this poor guy is literally dropping into a firefight. And he's like, can you come help me? I'm like, where are you? He's like, don't worry about it. You're not going to make it.
Yep. That's pretty much it. I mean, that kind of game, like, I remember when Damien and Vic were trying to tell me what to do, I was getting kind of anxious because they were giving me, like, very fast-paced instructions.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, no, pick this up. No, don't pick that gun up. But wait, watch over there. And I'm like, just fuck, I don't know what I'm doing yet. Like, just let me get my grounds here.
And I will give Tom credit for being, like, very patient with me. Because this is the kind of game where if you're going to be with somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, patience is essential. And if he wasn't patient with me, I think both of us would have had a miserable time.
Sure.
So kudos, Tom. You're a patient guy. I don't care what Will says about you. I think you're swell.
Yeah, he's a swell dude, and he's very patient.
Yeah.
But yeah, it looks pretty good. I guess I'll kind of leave it at that.
Yeah, I think if you have an option to give it a try over on the PlayStation side, there's always sales. Give it a shot.
Yeah.
I think you'd like it.
Cool.
So do you think we should hit the mailbag at this point?
Let's do it.
I haven't even looked at these questions yet. All right, so this one comes from Banksy. He says, do you think people would play a first-person shooter that's 100% magic-based? I used to play Mage Storm, which was originally a pay-per-hour game on Engage and on AOL Games, which I destroyed my parents' bill on. Oops. Oh, fucking AOL Games, man. There was eventually a monthly service version of it until EA bought it out just to kill it since it competed with some nonsense they were running. But I think about how so many people love first-person shooters and how so many people love Magic, but you usually only see Magic in one-player games. And that's a really interesting point. There's a lot of games where, if there's any kind of like magic system, it's in addition to some sort of gunplay.
Mm.
Is that something that you would like to do if you had the ability to just run around and cast fireballs and lightning bolts and shit like that, and have that be an FPS game? Like, is that?
I think so. And here's why. I think this kind of leads up into something I wanted to speak about at some point in the show, and that's Tom recently shared with me that he finally got the Skyrim VR up and running properly, because when I was there, we did not experience it properly. It was not set up right, but he did a lot of VR tweaking after I left, and he told me today that he fired it up in VR, and he was, launching fireballs with one hand and using a sword in the other, and it made me think like how cool it would be to experience that game in VR and in essentially FPS style, right? So with that being said, I think the answer would be yes. I would love to cast magic in a first-person setup. Because when we think of FPS games, we're thinking of Battlefield and Call of Duty and all that kind of shit, and all you see is that gun being toted around, right? The gun's bouncing on the screen on the bottom.
Yeah.
It's all kind of the same shit. But it works well, and there's a reason why it does work well. But I think yes, I would love to cast spells in first person, especially in VR.
There was a game years ago on the PC called Hexic. I'm sorry, no. There was Hexen. And Heretic was the other one too. And those games were, if I recall, 100% magic. I don't remember there ever being any kind of firearms in it. They were using the Doom engine. I don't think I don't think they made it. Let me look this up. I think it was like Raven Software or something. Let's see here. Heretic game. Heretic and Hexen were like the sequel. It was like the sequel to it. Yeah, Raven Software developed it, and id Software published it. And then, let's see here. So they did Heretic 2, and Hexen was kind of like the unofficial sequel to the game, but it was made by the same group. Oh, it is a sequel. I'm so confused. Anyway,
wasn't there like a Hexen on like Nintendo 64?
Probably.
There was.
Yeah, there was. Yep. That game, Hexen, came to the Saturn, N64, PlayStation, and Windows and Mac.
Yeah, I totally remember that. But yeah, I think when I think of a first-person magic casting kind of game, I guess my memory does kind of harken back to games like that.
Yeah.
Because I don't really recall any other game as of recent that has done that.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I can't really think of anything either. There's a lot of games that integrate magic with firearms, but nothing that's 100% magic based.
Right.
Even like a game like Mass Effect or Anthem, which, are third-person shooters. There's a lot of... they might use a different word for it, but it's essentially magic. There's a lot of magic in those games, but, then, of course, you're walking around with a shotgun, too.
Sure. But yeah, 100. This is a good question because it's very thought provoking, and I think it's making me want to kind of go back and research games that have accomplished this.
Yeah, I'd have to look into that and see what else there is. I don't think there really is anything. I think if we dug around deep enough, we might find like an indie release. But as far as the major platforms go, Hexen was probably the last one.
That's so weird to think about, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty wild.
Do people not like magic?
I guess. I don't know. I think what happens is the industry just kind of gets into a rut. They find something that works. It makes money. It's a safe bet. They try something new. It doesn't sell. So they go back to what works.
Sure.
It's a business at the end of the day.
It is.
Joe Donuts, he says, what are your opinions about cutscenes in games? And what games have implemented them well? What games have implemented them poorly? And what use of cutscenes do you want to see more or less of in the future? Great question.
It is a good one. I like cutscenes in games, and I would say that I also don't like them in games. So I guess it's kind of like it's a half-half, I think a lot of it depends on the story. If the story is really good, then give me all the cutscenes, for hours. I'll watch them.
Yeah.
But if the story is not that great and there's a lot of cutscenes, then perhaps that would be where it gets kind of tricky and you don't want to see them as often. But generally speaking, to answer the first part of the question, I don't mind them.
Yeah. For me, it really does depend on where, when, and how, and how long too. When I pop a game in, I don't really want to spend a lot of time watching a movie. I want to play. I want to play within the first 10 minutes. Like, it's bad enough nowadays that we pop a game in and it's got to fucking install.
Yep, I hate that.
So, like, when you put Doom in, like, go make dinner.
Right, exactly.
Come back later, maybe it'll be done.
I'm sure I'm going to have to, yeah.
I would put it in now. Let's just pause the podcast. Go put it in, because it's going to take that long to fucking download all this shit. But anyway, that's a whole nother show. But, yeah, I mean, like, I think about, all right, so Spider-Man, like, I really like the story in Spider-Man. The story is carried thoroughly through cutscenes, and they did a fantastic job with the voice acting, but they also did a really good job with the facial animations of the characters throughout those cutscenes. And you don't get that in the regular gameplay because during the game, like, all right, there's a lot of dialogue during the gameplay, but it's happening through phone calls and things of that nature. So there's an element to the story that's being there, but you're not making that personal connection as much. I think the two complement each other. I think the game would have less impact without the cutscenes because you're not able to get that emotional reaction from Peter Parker or from Aunt May or whoever in the story. But then I also think about, I think it was Metal Gear Solid 3.
I think it was 4
or 4. Maybe it was 4. Which one was on the PlayStation 3?
4.
So I remember popping that game in for the first time, and no joke, there was like a cutscene that was like 30 minutes long.
Yeah, I think it's technically like 45.
Maybe, I don't know, but like I fell asleep. I fell asleep on myself waiting for this game to play.
Well, like I said before, that particular game, regardless of cutscenes or not, like you really have to love that game and you have to love that franchise to sit through those cutscenes without going to sleep. But for somebody who doesn't, I mean, I hate to kind of create that, not opinion, but create that thought process for somebody's, likeness for a game. But there are certain games where cutscenes are more tolerable for certain fans. And then if you're not a huge fan of, say, Metal Gear 4 or just Metal Gear in general, then maybe you might be more prone to it. However, there are some cutscenes that even myself, being a big fan, I've kind of gotten distracted, or you start thinking maybe I should check my phone, or have I taken the laundry out of the washer yet and put it in the dryer? You're going to be thinking about stuff like that because, the reality is some cutscenes are just simply too long. Yeah.
It should be a compliment to the game, not a replacement for the game.
That's true. And some games are really good at that. They're really good at complimenting, and then other games are not. It sometimes feels like fill-in. Yeah, absolutely. So, thank you, Banksy and Joe Donis, for sending those questions in. Great topics to discuss. We really appreciate it. Folks, if you ever want to send in a question for our mailbag segment, head on over to our Discord room. The link will be in the show notes, or you can shoot us an email, wdgrpodcast@gmail.com. That's wdgrpodcast@gmail.com. So, Will, you've had a bit of a roller coaster this week. And by we, I mean myself and a few of the others in the Discord room, including Tom, our friend Vic. I'm trying to think of who else was in on this, but a few of us were kind of trying to goad you into picking up an Xbox One. Yeah.
And I think the shiny part of this that really kind of piqued your interest was the Game Pass deal. Right.
Yes.
So for the listeners that aren't familiar, basically, for the entire month of June, Xbox came out with the Ultimate Xbox Game Pass, right, which allows you access to console games, PC games, and it takes whatever your existing Xbox Live subscription is and converts it into this Game Pass for the entire length of your existing subscription. So people were finding out that they had maybe 2 years of Xbox Live banked up on their account, and then they would spend $1, and now they would have access to all these games for the entire length of that 2 years. So I found the article on Reddit about it. Vic was willing to be the guinea pig to try it out. He did. It worked. I did it. It worked. And then Tom, we were talking about it for about a week, and then Tom caught wind of it. And he's like, how did I miss this? He goes and buys himself 3 years of Xbox Live and activates Game Pass. And now he's got it for, 3 years or whatever. And you kind of got swept up in that for a moment.
I did. I think Tom and I perhaps didn't expect our conversation at the end of the last episode to really take off. And that conversation was, how do we spark the camaraderie all over again that we had years ago with gaming?
Mm-hmm.
And that was a big turning point, I think. And it was accidental. We just kind of, created that conversation towards the end of the show. And all of a sudden, it just came to fruition in the Discord room. Yeah. And all of a sudden, it just exploded. We now have like a game night, lobby and, certain deals. And we've really taken off on this notion that we could revive this somehow. And this could have been the way to do it. And it might still be the way.
Yeah. That certainly sparked the idea of setting up like the LFG group. And, we're working on planning like actual weekly game nights with different games that rotate. And having access to the Game Pass and an Xbox facilitates that, because now whether or not you bought the game, you have access to that game as long as it's available for download, and it only costs $1, for up to 36 months. So
which is still crazy to think about.
It's absurd, and I still think somebody fucked up, but I'm gonna roll with it. And if I could play PUBG without dropping any more money, that's great. I love it. I'll do that. Was I going to spend $30 on PUBG? No. I'll spend $1 and I'll play it for a while, and then when it's gone, it's gone, and that's totally cool.
Sure.
So those two kind of go hand in hand with each other, and I kind of wanted to talk to you about your thought process, because I was convinced that you were going to say, hey guys, I got an Xbox One. And after talking with you before the show, that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. And kind of wanted to get your thoughts on that and, get inside your head a little.
Sure. So I was a huge Xbox guy, when the 360 came out. Most of us were. And that's where all of this started. And I remember I got an Xbox One S. It was actually the Battlefield 1 edition. It was really cool. It was green. It was fucking awesome. It took a long time for me to even get that, because once the PS4 came out, I was sold. I kind of, ventured into being a Sony fan. I always was, but I kind of just went into that realm, dove deep, and didn't come back up to the surface. So that's kind of what happened there. So it took a lot of convincing to get the Xbox One in the first place, because I wasn't a big fan of the lineup of games. I didn't really enjoy the layout of the dashboard, the way that it had changed and progressed into what it is now. There's just a lot of things I didn't like about it. And I enjoyed the system for a short while with, doing some gaming with Tom and, reviving some of the games that I still had as, backwards compatible games. And I had a good, decent little run with it for, I want to say about 6 months to maybe close to a year.
Yeah.
And then I started thinking, man, I'm just not turning this thing on that much. I'm really just not into it. I feel like the idea that we had to kind of bring everybody back together just wasn't working as well as we had anticipated. And this was I don't know, maybe like 2 years ago, I think I had it.
Okay.
And I eventually got rid of it. One day I think I literally yanked the plug out of the wall and, did the whole cord wrap around the console. I'm like, this thing's going back. Yeah. So I brought it to GameStop, traded it in, probably didn't get much for it. But I just felt like it wasn't the right system for me. And with this new thought process on, again, reviving the group and using Game Pass as potentially a way to do it, I was very close to getting it once again. And today was kind of a turning point for me, because I was very close. As I said, I had my shoes on. I had my shoes on, I had my car keys. I'm pretty sure in my gym shorts. I was kind of dressed, Sunday casual. And I was getting ready to make my way out. and, go to GameStop or Best Buy. I was doing some research online. And then I was just like, you know what, man, I just feel like maybe this just isn't the right move, because considering it didn't work out well the first time, I was like, maybe I need to give this more thought. And maybe this just isn't the right time for me to get this at the moment. So that's what led me to making the decision of, taking my shoes off and, focusing in on the show and giving this whole idea a little bit more thought. And that's okay, because we did discuss the idea of what games can we play on consoles that people already own.
Right.
And I think that we can do that with certain games. We talked about The Last of Us. There's probably some other PS4 games that maybe some of us can pick up or trade in or whatever in order to get this thing moving. But I'm not going to give up on the idea of this becoming a thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the nice thing is, there, for the most part, everybody in the group has both consoles. Now, there are some asterisks that go next to that. For example, Vortex doesn't have a PlayStation, neither does Lost Monkey. I have a PlayStation, but I don't have a subscription to PlayStation Network. So for me, I'd have to, pony up for that if I'm going to play a PlayStation game. But like Tom and Joe, they have both systems as far as I'm aware. And then we have the Switch group too, which I know you have a Switch, Puxar has a Switch, Vortex has a Switch, I think Lost Monkey has a Switch as well too. There's not a ton of stuff that I've seen people doing multiplayer on like that, but like there's nothing that says we can't get like Mario Kart Night going or something.
Right. I think we can basically figure out what to do with what we have. And I think that's perhaps the next focus, for all of us, is like, how do we game with what we have? Because we all have multiple systems. We all have multiple games. There's got to be a way that we can structure it. It might be a little bit all over the place at first, because we're not all just choosing one game or like 5 games in one console. We're choosing 30 games and like 3 or 4 consoles. So that's what's going to make it a little bit more intricate. But I'm willing to go down that rabbit hole.
My hope with this, and I'm not sure, like we've never talked about the game night thing. It just kind of happened organically. So our conversation right now is in live and in on the air, Yes. For me, my thought process was, okay, let's come up with, 2 or 3 games that the majority of people have, right? And maybe so I think Saturdays, Sundays, and Mondays were like the leading days right now for the most folks, because we did a quick poll online. So I'm thinking, okay, let's say maybe Saturday is PUBG on Xbox. Sunday is Last of Us on PlayStation 4. And then Monday is, I don't know, pick your game, right? Splatoon, we'll say. And then anybody that has those games, those days, if they want to play, if they can play, they jump on, they play. It doesn't have to be this huge formal thing. And then next week, maybe we switch the games, we switch the days. But we try to still keep something for each system in there too. Because there's going to be times where, not everybody can make everything. But I think as long as everybody makes an effort and, as long as we keep it active, I think it could be something really cool.
I think so too. And I like the idea of having like this game schedule. And I could already see kind of the excitement of like, oh, nice, tomorrow's like Last of Us, and like I get out of work at 6, and we can bring back some of that excitement that we had, many moons ago when we just were in different places in our lives. So yeah, I think it's worth attempting to do this, for sure. But yeah, that's where I'm at, and the fact that I can barely get to what I have now is kind of an indication as well as to why buying essentially a $500 to $600 setup is not the right move for me at the moment.
Yep, absolutely. I can understand that. I can respect it. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little disappointed. I was really looking forward to, having you get an Xbox, and I really wanted to do a show about what you thought about it, because the dashboard is completely different than, what you had back when you originally had a one. They've done a lot of improvements on that, and, unfortunately, some of the features that I really enjoyed are no longer there. They took Snap out for a while back, and Cortana is no longer really existent on it, and shit that I used apparently nobody else did, so whatever. I'm not bitter, fuck you all, but yeah,
bring Cortana back.
Oh man, it was just I used to have the Kinect attached, and I would just be like, "Hey, Xbox, turn on," and boop boop, it would, and then it would turn my TV on, and everything was great. And then they took away that feature.
Well, now everything is like Alexa controlled. You know, when I was hanging out with
Yeah,
Tom over the weekend, it was amazing to be able to use Alexa for the first time.
yeah,
Because I've never used it before. I've only witnessed, I think, Vic use it a couple times.
yep, yep.
But man, it's actually quite good.
I have I'm a Google Home person. You know, I went down that route, and I have 3 of them in my house.
Wow.
I have one in the living room. I have one in my office / game room, and then I have one in the bedroom, which kind of gets moved back and forth to the kitchen. And they're the little ones, the little small guys, and you know they have a pretty decent speaker in them. So if I want to listen to some music, let's say I'm outside working in the yard, I could stick the one. Like I usually use the one in the bedroom. I'll take it and I'll put it in the window, and I can hear the music outside. You know. And because it's on the Wi-Fi, all I need is electricity. It's not like tethered to like any kind of wiring or anything like that. As long as I have a plug to plug it into, I'm good to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the speaker was actually very impressive on the OG Alexa, like the original tower version. Not so much the dots. I mean, the dots were impressive, but the original Alexa is it packs a punch.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to replace your hi-fi, but it's certainly more than adequate. So,
what else do we have on the docket here?
Well, so you have, let's see here. You've kind of, did you talk about, no, you didn't talk about the Skyrim statue yet.
Yeah, I could talk about that briefly. When I went to go and see Tom, I did, I think, forget to mention on the show that we did that he did gift me Doom. I mentioned that, I think, earlier on this episode.
Yeah.
But yes, that was a great surprise because when I walked into the room that my wife and I were staying in, I was like, huh, this is kind of cool. We got a copy of Doom here, and it's being kind of clutched by this really cool, like, Skyrim-looking statue. And he's like, yeah, isn't that cool? And he was kind of doing this subtle approach that those were for me. They were like a late birthday present, and it took me a while to even realize that's what he was trying to convey. So I was like, oh, that's really cool, and I still wasn't getting it. And then at one point I was like, you know what, Tom, are you trying to say that this stuff's for me, like to keep? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, oh, dude, thank you. Like it was such a weird interaction because he just presented it in kind of a very unorthodox way.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't like, hey, Will, take a look on that dresser, man. Those are your late birthday presents. Happy birthday.
Yeah.
You know, if he had said that, I would have been like, oh, dude, you know, thank you. Like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
So I think he was probably going for, you know, classic Tom approach, which is a little bit unorthodox, but that's Tom. But yes, I have a beautiful, very rare Skyrim statue of Alduin or Alduin. It's a main sort of dragon in the game. And it's kind of perched on this really cool like piece of stone wall that has like a shout written in like the Skyrim language or whatever. It's very cool. It's massively nerdy to the point where like I wouldn't necessarily or normally buy a statue such as this. But I'm very proud to take ownership of it. And I just got to find a place to put it because it's quite large. And my kitten was biting on it. So I got to find a good spot. But yes, he gifted me that and Doom, and it was a really nice surprise.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
I know absolutely nothing about Skyrim, but it seems like it's the kind of game that would lend itself to very intricate statues.
Yes, and it certainly was. But yeah, and then, you know, going back to the VR stuff, I know I put this on the docket as well. I spoke about it previously. Incredible experience. I'm glad to see that Oculus is doing well. I'm sure I will be an owner at some point. And there is one game that I have an eye on right now, and it's Lone Echo. I think it's Lone Echo 2.
Okay.
But god damn, dude. Like, I'm going to send like you a trailer for this, and hopefully I can remember to put it in the main chit-chat room or something. But, it looks like an interstellar like Gravity if you combine those two movies together. And also, what's that movie with Matt Damon where he has to like live on Mars?
The Martian. Yeah.
So it's like those three movies, a lot of those concepts exist in this game, and it's completely in outer space. And as soon as I saw the trailer, I was like, oh my God, I would love to experience some kind of outer space game in VR where you're like floating around a spaceship and you're outside fixing shit. And there's like crazy stuff going on. Lone Echo.
Yeah, just type that into the Google box.
Yes, I believe it's 2. There must be a first one, obviously, but
yeah. So the first one I think is Windows only. Lone Echo 2. It's just Oculus. Yeah, I think it's just Oculus.
But yeah, I'm very intrigued with VR. It's on my list of things to get eventually. Once I get the finances, because that's going to be a very expensive show to put together.
So let me ask you a little bit about that, because you have some options with VR. You could go with the PlayStation VR, or you can kind of pursue the Powerhouse computer route, which seems to be a little bit more involved as far as the amount of space you need for that too.
Well, from what I understand, according to Tom's research and experience with it, the best way to do it is to get a Powerhouse PC and get like the most expensive Oculus Rift, which is I think what he has.
Yeah.
Along with like all the 4 sensors, and like it's quite a big purchase to get it running correctly. Like apparently he had to upgrade his video card to get it running the way that it did.
Yeah.
So either it would be that route, or I would just get like an entry-level version to Oculus at some point and start off small.
So, just off the top of my head, like I see some red flags with that, because first of all, you're a Mac guy.
I am, yes.
And I can't imagine you ever buying Windows.
Well, I mean, I have before. Like, I
Okay.
was not always a Mac guy. I was a Windows guy. I was into PC or custom PCs. I had one custom PC in my lifetime and put a lot of money into it, and it was a great computer.
Yeah.
And I still have this fantasy of building like a really, really expensive like custom rig.
Yeah.
Later on down the road. Could be 3 years from now. Like, who knows? But
no, there's no rush.
I've always wanted like a really, really high-end, like water-cooled, serious top-of-the-line custom PC so I could run anything.
Yeah.
So I could run Crysis. That's an ongoing joke.
Yeah. Doesn't play Crysis.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I'd love to do it that way, but I haven't played around with VR enough to understand as to whether or not some of these entry-level versions of Oculus and the Vive and stuff like that are worth venturing into. And they might be. You might get a very similar experience.
Yeah. The other thing that I had something and I lost it.
Was it VR related?
It was.
PSVR?
I'm drawing a complete blank. I had like two Devil's Advocates points.
Interesting. Anything to do with like PC VR?
So it was the PC Mac thing, and then
Yep.
Yeah. So the other thing that another red flag for me is how much you hate tinkering with stuff.
I hate tinkering with stuff. Hate it.
I remember we tried to get you set up with emulators for about a minute and a half, and like you just threw your hands up and you bought a Sega Saturn instead.
Oh yeah. I'm such an extreme person, man. Like if I get frustrated with something, I will literally do the polar opposite in a very extreme way, and that's exactly what happened. Folks probably remember what I did there, and I don't regret it. But
no, I mean, I think I think it was an awesome purchase.
Yeah, I'm just not. You know what it is? I'm not skilled, and I'm not patient enough to understand emulation, and or like sometimes just new subjects in general. So sometimes I'll just kind of rage quit. I'm like, I'm just going to take the easy road.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember with that, I was like, I just couldn't get a game to load, and I was like, fuck it, that's it. I'm done with this shit. I'm not doing it. I don't want to learn, and I don't want to communicate with Damien or whoever else like over Discord on like what I need to do.
Right.
And I remember Damien, like when I was discussing it with him, I had made an effort. He said something and he's like, huh, that's weird. It should load. And as soon as he said that, I was like, that's fucking it. I'm done. Because like, even though it was a simple statement on his part, like the fact that somebody's not giving me an answer and is saying, well, that's the way I do it and it works for me, boils my fucking blood, dude. I don't know why. It's got nothing to do with that person. It's just like the fact that I'm not getting the answer that I'm looking for and it's not working makes me want to pull the fucking plug. And that's exactly what I did. And I went to town on Amazon, and I got some really nice stuff.
And that's kind of the thing when you're playing with a PC, I mean, you'd have a larger network of support than you would if you were trying to do this on a Mac, but because more of us have PCs and more of us have, extensive experience with PCs. But there's always this level of tweaking that is involved because your graphics card might be more powerful than mine, or my processor might be different than yours, or, so it's not going to be an apples to apples process.
Right. And I knew that going in, but,
if you were to play, or just buy a PlayStation VR, maybe your experience wouldn't be as good, but it would be plug and play. You wouldn't have any of that stress. You wouldn't have any of that stress. And I'm concerned that you're going to go down this path and get stressed out and have a knee-jerk reaction and then just abandon it. And,
potentially.
I don't know. I'm worried.
No, it's a good point.
I'm just worried.
Dude, that was so fucking funny. Dude, I'm just, I'm worried. You should be worried. I'm worried. Because the thought of just examining Tom and watching what he was having to do to get it up and running the right way gave me anxiety. And it was giving him a lot of anxiety. He was like, there was a lot of
because he knows how you are. He knows what's on the line.
Well, potentially, yeah. He's like, this guy's going to fucking lose it. He'll just walk out of here. That's it. You don't get it up and running in 3 minutes, I'm done. That could be a good portion of it. But yeah, just watching him, you could just hear his mechanical keyboard and his mouse clicks, and you would just hear motherfucker, God damn it.
Yeah.
Just over and over again, and then finally he would get it and be like, all right, put this on. All right, stand right here. All right, don't move. No, put your hands up. And then once it was working, man, god damn. Again, call me easily entertained, but I was blown the fuck away.
Yeah.
So we are going to venture into indie gaming. What are we going to start with?
Well, yeah, so one of the things that we always wanted to do when we started this podcast was play more games. And I think on some level we've succeeded. And for those that have been with us since the early days, 30 episodes ago.
You beat me to
it. You might remember we started doing indie playthroughs, and we played Beyond, and one of the games that Will was really eager to play was a game called Inside. And I don't know what happened, but we got sidetracked, and long story short, we stopped doing the indie playthroughs. Well, Inside is the free game for Xbox Live this month. So I've already downloaded it. It's sitting on my Xbox One. And I said to Will, let's start doing this shit again. This is one of the things that, because I love talking about Journey with you. I love talking about Limbo with you. Let's get back into this again. Let's play more games. And the idea of playing a game that's about 4 hours long, fucking love it, because there's almost no commitment required.
Yeah, and I'm very, very excited for this journey.
Tell me about this game.
Sure. So mentioned it before, I think only when we did our soundtracks episode, because that was one of the highlights of one of my favorite pieces of music from a game. But yeah, incredible game. It's hard to talk about without revealing too much, but you essentially are playing as a young man who is what seems to be trapped inside of some facility, some sort of giant lab where they're conducting really weird experiments on what seems to be other people. And you are trying to find your way through this crazy, sort of world that you're in. And it's a very real world. Like I said, there's nothing fantasy-like about it. It's just very dark. It's very brooding. The music is incredible. The atmosphere is incredible. Sound effects and visuals are very well done. There's a lot of care that was put into making this game. You can certainly tell, especially since we've played Limbo. It's very much like that, but it's just 10 times better. I would say 20 times better than Limbo.
Really?
Because our experience with Limbo was kind of like my second time or my third time around playing it was not as eventful as the first time.
Yeah.
And I know that you were not in love with it either.
It wasn't.
Inside, I think, is going to be a nice, refreshing way to venture back into that style of game, which is just, how do I get the fuck out of here kind of thing. And that's the sort of tagline with Inside is like, where am I? What's going on here? And how do I get the fuck out? And the way that they, let that story unfold as you play is just it's very, very unique. It's very special. There's some crazy shit that happens. There's some intricate puzzles that you have to figure out, but like it's weird because when you do think, okay, maybe I'll try this, maybe it will work, but I doubt it, is when it works. And that's what's really cool is you're like, this is probably not going to work. But then when it does, you're like, holy shit, like this game's really intuitive. Like it really picks up on what you're feeling almost.
Yeah.
But it's one of the best games I think I've ever played. It's, I wouldn't say it's in my top 10, but it's probably in top 15. It could be in top 10, but it's an incredible experience. It's not that long. And I remember finishing it and telling people about it for weeks.
Yeah.
Weeks. And the end, just the way that the game ends, and I think there's multiple endings, just simply incredible, man. And I know that it sounds like I'm just kind of saying the same shit, but I have to because I can't really talk about it in detail. It'll just spoil too much.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to checking it out.
Yes,
I think it's.
I can't wait.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's been a while since I've been able to sit with a game like so. I don't want to say small, like it's a negative thing, but like the idea of playing a complete story in just a few hours is. I love that.
I also might have to like buy it because I think I definitely have it on PC, so I could just switch over to Windows and. Yeah. As long as I can get some kind of controller to work with my computer, then...
As long as you don't have to tweak it or anything.
Yeah, if there's tweaking, then that game's just getting bought. It's getting bought on PS4. I'm probably going to find a good special for like $8 or something, because that game's gone down in price. Like, it always goes on like flash sales for like, fucking $5 or like $15 or some shit for like a Limbo Inside bundle.
Right.
But either way... I will find a way to play this game very soon, and I can imagine that we can start now. I might even start playing this game tonight. I mean, I need to play Doom first, but...
You son of a bitch.
Yeah, see, this is how off track I can go very quickly. So yeah, maybe Monday I might start.
I'm hitting up Steam right now, because Steam has their summer sale going right now. And you can buy... If you're on the PC, you're looking at Inside is $6.99 on sale. Inside and Limbo for the PC is $8.08. So you get greater savings for the bundle. But do you really need both games for the PC? I guess it really boils down to what you want to do.
Yeah, I would do your research because I mean you have to buy the game, right? Or did you say you had it?
No, well, it's free this month for Games with Gold. So
Perfect.
as part of my Xbox Live subscription, I have free access to the game.
Okay, beautiful. I was going to say, and I forgot that part, do your research, because I'm pretty sure that Inside is on, like, everything now, like PS4, literally, like, every console. I'm pretty sure it's out on the Switch, all that stuff.
I'm going to check the PlayStation Store for you, too, because that's the kind of guy I am.
Yeah, it's a real friend.
That's right. Not like Tom.
Ugh. I don't want to speak about him right now.
Fuck him.
With his advanced Oculus setup.
Yeah. Inside is not pretty. $20 right now on PS4.
Yeah, that happens with that game.
The bundle is $30.
Yeah, I just gotta check. I might have it because when we played Limbo, I'm pretty sure I had to buy Limbo for PS4 because I had it on PC like years ago and I think I deleted it. So I might have got the bundle, and I probably did at the time. So
I hope you did, because that was
and if I did, then I'm good.
Yeah. So cool.
Cool.
So we're gonna do that. We're gonna talk about that next week on the show.
Yes.
And we'll see where this goes. Of course, if you have any suggestions for the indie playthrough, hit us up. Let us know. We'd love to hear from you. And I have a running list of things that I'd like to play. Some of which have shown up on Game Pass at some point now. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of excited. I think Edith Finch is on the PC Game Pass. Man. There's so much stuff here. I'm looking through. I forgot about Dead Cells. I can't wait to play that game.
Yeah, that's been on my radar as well for a while. That game looks amazing.
That's a game that I'm just dying to play on the Nintendo Switch. Like I can buy it on PC or Xbox or whatever, but I don't know. I just want that on the Switch. Same with Bloodstained. I fucking love Castlevania games. The DS Castlevania games and the GBA Castlevania games are some of my favorite games ever. And Bloodstained just looks amazing.
Yeah, it does. I was watching a little bit of video of that
Yeah.
earlier, and I believe it's one of the best-selling like Kickstarter games like ever.
Is it?
I believe so.
Wow. I know he went back and the developer, I can't, Igarashi? Totally fucking that up. He took a lot of criticism from the early look of the game and went back and made it better. So like he's actively responding to people, and it's just really cool to see a developer be like, "Oh, you don't like the way this looks? Fine, I'll fix it." And it's like 10 times better.
Yep.
Yeah,
that game, we'll have to talk about that on a different episode, because I was thinking about like getting that game today because like it just looks so fucking good.
Yeah. But then there's Doom.
And it's sitting right in front of me.
Yeah, I'm gonna cut you if you don't play that tonight.
Jesus.
I mean it. Don't threaten me.
I had this visual in my mind of you cutting me in such a weird place.
I'm gonna cut you like Doom. Like the Doomslayer fucking cuts the Cyber Demon with the chainsaw.
You just like cut my like upper thigh, but like right underneath like my ass cheek, just somewhere like really weird.
I'm gonna cut you in the most annoying place possible. I'm gonna cut you like in the webbing of your fingers.
Yeah, or like behind your knee, like where your leg bends.
Yeah.
That'd be awful.
Yep. You remember that.
Yeah, those behind the knee cuts.
There was a pro wrestling pay-per-view last night. AEW, All Elite Wrestling, had an event last night. And there was a hardcore match. And in the hardcore match, somebody dropped a guy onto thumbtacks onto his bare feet. and like, that is like, I've seen so many people get dropped on the thumbtacks over the years. It's ridiculous. I'm a huge pro wrestling fan. Yeah. I've never seen somebody take a thumbtack spot to the feet. And it is like the most excruciating pain like that I can imagine.
You think worse than like Legos?
They're thumbtacks, Will.
I know, but Legos hurt like a bitch, dude.
Legos hurt like a bitch, but they don't stick in the bottoms of your feet.
I know, but like I feel like they use thumbtacks because it's like one of the most innocent forms of like torture that they can use and not have it be like fucking spikes. Because
they're generally shallow, so like they'll pierce the skin, but the wound is superficial.
He's fucking falling on like Lego train pieces and shit.
This dude fucking sold it like he got shot in the face. He was screeching. I gotta send this to you. His name is Joey Janela. He was wrestling John Moxley, and Joey Janela just like fucking like screeching like a Wilhelm scream.
I will say that the Wrestling Federation has always been really good at creating the most masculine names for wrestlers. They're always super masculine. Sometimes. Give me a feminine one.
Velveteen Dream.
Are you fucking serious?
Dead. But
that makes me think of like Velveeta.
Well, so his gimmick is he's kind of like a mix of like Prince and Randy Savage. Like he's definitely tapping into like the flamboyant rock and roll type character.
Sure.
But he's also a tremendous fucking athlete, so it works. Like very few people could pull this type of thing off, and this guy is having like stellar matches. And I don't know if you remember like Ravishing Rick Rude, he kind of has a little bit of that in him. It's great. I could go down a whole nother rabbit hole with that. We need to end the show, Will.
We do need to end it because I was thinking, like, isn't that like a ring wrap thing?
Yeah. And I stopped doing that. So
you goddamn right, you did.
Oh God, folks! Thank you for listening to us. Please spread the word. Leave a review on your podcast app. Let us know what you think of the show. Any and all feedback is welcome. Hit us up. Email at WDGRPodcast@gmail.com. Join our Discord room. You can find a link to that in the show notes. We'd love to have you stop on by, say hello, and jump in on some of these game nights that we're going to start planning soon. Will, if somebody would like to find you on social media, how can they do so?
Will_gear.
You can find me at ScionStorm, and of course you can find the show on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at WDGRPodcast. Thank you, everybody who's supported us thus far. We really appreciate it. Thanks to Tom for stepping in on a short notice and a very weird week for me. And I'm glad you guys were able to get together and put out an awesome show. I appreciate it. And yeah, man, go play Doom.
Yeah, start pinching your pennies for an Oculus.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next week.
See ya.